Hi, I'm Wildflower Chef Susie, and I'm finishing up my fruitcake for the season. I started this late October, Halloween weekend. I usually make the fruitcakes, and then every week from that point on I pour sherry or wine or brandy over them. And this is the final pouring before Christmas. We're about 2 weeks out from Christmas, and I want these to set and dispel some kind of the harshness of the liquor before that we open them up at Christmas. So I'm just going to open up the cheesecake a little, cheesecloth a little bit, and pour a little bit of the sherry over them, and then wrap them up, and they're going to be ready. Even if you're viewing this and it's not Christmas time, you can make these year-round because these are made with dried fruit and nuts, and they're so fabulous. And you can even make them the 1st of January, pour some brandy or sherry over them once a week, and open them up for Valentine's Day. Let me show you how you make them. I have 6 cups of dried dates. Dried pitted dates. I have 6 cups of raisins, and I used a mix of golden raisins and black raisins. I have 4 cups of chopped pecans, and I've got 2 pounds of mixed dried fruit. I've got dried pineapple, dried apricots, the citron that is typical in fruit cakes, and the candied orange and candied lemon. But all I've done first is I've just chopped up all this fruit. Now we add a 1/2 cup of molasses, and what I like to do sometimes is I will spray a little spray oil in the jar, in the measuring cup, and that allows the molasses to release a lot more easily. Now in here I've got a pound of butter and 2½ cups of brown sugar. Remember, every time that a measurement calls for brown sugar, you want to pack it tight into the cup to measure it. I've got 2½ cups of packed brown sugar in here, and we'll cream that. Cream means that I'm going to mix this together until the whole mixture is very smooth and creamy. Here we go. All right, that looks good. Now we're going to add 8 eggs, one at a time, mixing well after each addition. Now I tend not to break the eggs right into this bowl because there's a possibility the egg shell could get in there. So what I do is I just crack an egg, put it in a cup first, make sure there's no blood in the egg and no eggshell, then I add it. See that it's mixed well. Scrape down the sides, add another egg, and keep doing it. Now we want to sift out 4 cups of sifted flour. If a recipe calls for sifted flour, that means that you measure it after you sift it. It doesn't matter if you sift it and then put it back in the bag. You don't have to measure at this point. If you don't measure, the difference in your volume is going to be different by a couple of tablespoons. So it is important to sift if the recipe calls for sifting. So we've already fluffed this up and added air to it, which will make our fruitcake more tender. So we don't want to pack this down. So we're going to spoon it into the measuring cup. And if your spoon has a straight handle, you can just run that across. And put that in a bowl because we're going to add spices to it. There's my 1 cup of the whole wheat pastry flour. I'm going to go ahead, put this back in the bag, and then measure out 3 cups in the same way of the white flour. Now to your sifted flour mixture, you want to add a teaspoon of salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, a teaspoon of ground cloves, which is the most amazing flavor on the planet, and a teaspoon of ground mace. And a good way to incorporate all that together is to just take a whisk, stir it in so it's evenly distributed. Now what you want to do is you want to take the dry ingredients and add them to your bowl of creamed butter, brown sugar, and eggs. With the mixer off, because you don't want to have a face full of flour, add a cup of flour. If I turn this little sucker on high right now, this is going to fly all over the place, so you want to make sure you have a low speed and a little bit before you turn the mixer on. This has a nice slow stir speed, which works well. Start incorporating these 4 cups of flour in. Make sure all the ingredients are moistened before you add the next cup. Now we're going to take our batter and we're going to pour it over our fruit nut and sherry mixture. Okay, once you get the batter in there, all you're going to do is stir this around until it's incorporated. Now you want to prepare your pans, and what I do is I take some shortening and I put it on a paper towel, and I take my pans and I just rub that around, getting it well into the corners. But sometimes fruitcake can be difficult to come out of these aluminum pans. So as a safety measurement, what I do is I take parchment paper or paper toweling, and actually I was taught to use paper toweling by a woman who works in a cake shop because it's a lot less expensive than parchment paper and it works really well. So just trace the bottom of your pan onto on the paper towel, cut out, I always try to cut off the ink because I don't know that this is, probably is not soy ink, and I don't even know if soy ink is edible. So we just cut that out, and you're going to put that on the bottom of the pan because if the fruitcakes stick to the pan, they're most likely stick to the bottom. So you do that, set that on, and then you're ready to put your batter in. Okay, start spooning your batter in to the fruitcakes, and you're going to fill these. These do not rise much because there's not a lot of leavening in there. We only have that little bit of baking soda in this huge batch, so it's not really going to rise significantly at all. So I'm going to go ahead and pack these almost to the top. So just going to put the fruitcake in like that. I'm going to go ahead and do all my pans. I'm preheating the oven at 300 degrees. And there you have 7 little fruitcakes, mini fruitcakes that I can give for gifts, and 1 for myself. I love these. So we're going to bake these at 300 degrees in the oven for up to an hour, maybe an hour and a half. We're going to check them, stick a toothpick in them, make sure they're done in the middle, and then we'll pull them out, let them cool. The little fruitcakes are going to take about between an hour and a half and an hour 45 minutes to cook. So I've removed them from the oven, and I stuck a toothpick in the center to see that it came out clean. The large fruitcake is taking a little bit longer. That'll take about maybe 2 hours to 2 hours and 15 minutes to cook. We're going to let these cool on the racks for about 15-20 minutes and then remove them. Now you simply take a knife and you cut around against the wall of the pan, so it should release pretty well. And then you just kind of pull the sides of the pan aside a little bit, get out of there, and then peel off that paper towel, and you have your fruitcake. This is absolutely the best. Now, what we're going to do with this fruitcake is we're going to wrap it up in cheesecloth, which will allow us to pour the sherry over it. And before we do, so we just roll this up. So you just pour this in through the cheesecloth. All right, and it's going to be nice and soaked in that sherry. Now you're going to wrap this in wax paper, and then you're going to wrap it in foil. You're going to put this away in the cupboard, not the refrigerator, in the cupboard, and every 7 days take it out, pour sherry or brandy over it, take off the foil, take off the wax paper, pour it through the cheesecloth, and then put it back on the shelf. And at Christmas time, you get to open these up and eat them, and they're fabulous. If you have any questions, email me, Suzi at wildflowerchefservices.com, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thanks for watching.